We are back for another episode of the International Agenda on the BJ Show. As always, I'm your host, Aidan Barry, and we'll be discussing everything going on around the world in the world of sport. On this episode, I will be talking about what's going on in the world of the American sports at the moment. So we've got the Super Bowl coming up. We're going to have a look at the Super Bowl preview of the NFC, AFC Championship games as well. We're going to have a look at how the NHL is shaking out, look at how the NBA is shaking out. We're also going to be looking at the Premier League and the Champions League as we move into the final months of the European football season. As you could probably tell by the sound of the horn, the first thing on the agenda for this week is some NHL action down on the rinks. So we're going to go through how the playoffs are starting to take shape, go each conference, each division for both the NHL and the NBA this week, and look at those positions going into the last couple of months of those seasons. So we'll start with the Eastern Conference and the Atlantic. So Atlantic, topped by the Toronto Maple Leafs on 62 points, the Florida Panthers on 61 points, and then there's a logjam. The Senators, the Bruins, and the Lightning, 56 points each to the Senators and the Bruins, 55 to the Lightning, 53 to the Red Wings, 53 to the Canadiens, and 43 to the Buffalo Sabres. So looking at how the Atlantic is shaping out, it should be Toronto, Florida, and looking likely to be one of Ottawa, Boston, or Tampa Bay. I think that Montreal are probably a year away. They've had a couple of good drafts recently, but I think they're a year away from getting high point numbers. And remembering in hockey, it's all about points, not so much wins. I think they're a year away. Detroit could be in the mix as we come to the end of the year. We'll go to the Met. So we have the first team that we're looking at with over 70 points to the end of January. That is the Washington Capitals and the grade 8 Alexander Ovechkin. They have gone and they have taken their division, the Met, by the throat. Second in the Met, we have the Carolina Hurricanes on 66 points. So I expect them to also be in the playoff. And third in the Met are the New Jersey Devils with 62 points, who I expect to also be in the playoffs at this point. Going down the Met, we have Columbus Blue Jackets on 55 points, the New York Rangers on 52 points, the Philadelphia Flyers on 52 points, the New York Islanders on 51 points, and the Pittsburgh Penguins on 48 points. We'll go across to the Western divisions now, the Western Conference and the divisions in the West. So we start with the Central Division. Also on 73 points are the Winnipeg Jets. They've had a really good year, and I look for them to continue that as we close out the season. Second in the Central, we have the Dallas Stars on 65 points, closely followed by the Minnesota Wild on 64. Going down the Central, we have Colorado on 60, and then a big gap back to St. Louis on 50 points. The Utah Hockey Club on 49. The Nashville Preds on 43, and the Chicago Blackhawks on 37. The final division in the NHL is the Pacific. It is led in a two-way tie at the top by the Edmonton Oilers, 67 points, with a record of 32 wins, 15 losses, 3 overtime losses, to lead the Vegas Golden Knights, also on 67 points, 51 games played. So the Edmonton Oilers have the extra game to play. The Golden Knights are 31, 15, and 5 overtime losses. The LA Kings are on 58 points, the Calgary Flames on 55, the Vancouver Canucks on 54, the Anaheim Ducks 48 points, Seattle Kraken 47 points, and the San Jose Sharks are on 36 points. That is how the NHL is shaking out at the moment. So from where we are looking at, I think we can comfortably say that we will see the Maple Leafs and the Panthers in the playoff. We can see Caps, the Hurricanes, and the Devils in the playoff. We can see the Jets, the Stars, and the Wild in the playoffs. We can see Edmonton and Vegas in the playoffs at this point. So that is all your hockey wrap for now. We will continue on going down the agenda, and we will see what comes up next.
Pulls up, three-pointer. Bang! Bang!
It's now time to look through the NBA conferences and seeing how they're shaking out on the international agenda. Now remember, here's part of the fun of the show. You never know what's coming up next. That's why I'm the one with the agenda. We'll start with the Eastern Conference anyway. We'll get back to being serious now. We'll start with the Eastern Conference. So we're going to look at, again, much like I did with the NHL, who I think's safe and who I think is going to be in the playoffs. So, Eastern Conference, we have the Cleveland Cavaliers leading 38-9. Second in the East, the Boston Celtics 32-15. Third are the New York Knicks 31-16. Fourth, the Milwaukee Bucks 26-19. 5th, the Indiana Pacers, 26-20. 6th, the Orlando Magic, 24-24. 7th, in the first play-in position, Miami Heat, 23-23. 8th, second play-in position, 23-24. 9th, 22-25, and 10th, 20-27. Those are your top 10 in the Eastern Conference. The bottom 5 in the Eastern Conference at the moment are Philadelphia, 18-27, Toronto, 15-32, Brooklyn, 15-33, Charlotte, 12-32, and last in the East, the Washington Wizards, 6-40 through 46 games on their record. We will now head across to the Western Conference. Leading the West, we have the Oklahoma City Thunder, 37-8. Second, Houston Rockets, 32-14. Third, Memphis Grizzlies, 31-16. Fourth, Denver Nuggets, 28-18. Fifth, Los Angeles Lakers, 26-19. Sixth, Los Angeles Clippers, 26-20. Seventh, first playing position, Minnesota Timberwolves, 25-21. Eighth, second playing position, 24-21. Ninth, third playing position, Dallas Mavericks, 25-22. 10th, final playing position in the West, Sacramento, 24-22. The 5 teams outside the top 10 are Golden State, 23-23, San Antonio Spurs, 20-23, the Portland Trail Blazers, 18-29, New Orleans Pelicans, 12-35, and the Utah Jazz, 10-35. So that is how your standings shake out. We'll zoom in a little deeper here, and we'll see who is in a good spot to be qualified for either the playoffs or the play-in. So we'll go back up to the Eastern Conference. We'll go Cleveland will be in. Cleveland, Boston, New York, Milwaukee, and Indy, I think, will all be safe. Top 5 playoff guaranteed teams without risk of a play-in. Teams who I think could still be a play-in contender are Orlando, currently 6th. Miami, Detroit, Atlanta, and Chicago, who currently fill the playing positions in the East, as well as Philadelphia, who are sitting just outside and a game behind for that 10th spot and that final playing position on the ball. We'll do the same in the Western Conference. In the Western Conference, I feel that OKC, Houston, Memphis, and Denver are all safe. I think their records are all good enough to say if they can continue on their current pace, they'll safely be into the playoffs. So we only have 4 in the West because the Lakers and Clippers are tied on 26 wins, and there are a lot of teams behind them very close. In the play-in in the West, Minnesota, Phoenix, Dallas, and Sacramento currently. Golden State are just out. Golden State are 1 win behind the play-in. Minnesota are a win behind the playoff 6. So the Eastern Conference, I've put 5 teams in because I think if we look at teams' projections and teams' trends, I think we have 5 teams safe in the Eastern Conference, being Cleveland, Boston, New York, Milwaukee, and Indiana. Their trends are good enough to say, I think at this point, as we move into February, they're safe. 4 in the West, OKC, Houston, Memphis, and Denver. Their trends are good enough for me to say I think they're going to be safely in. We'll keep an eye on this though. This is going to get good as the playoff race is heated up, and we'll catch up with the NBA next time on the international agenda. It is time to talk some Premier League from England. We will do it as we've done with the other sports so far on the show today. We'll look over the league table and we will go over who is safely going to hold their positions and who is in danger. So Premier League leaders, Liverpool, 53 points. Second, Arsenal, 47 points. Third, Nottingham Forest, 44 points. Fourth, Man City, 41 points. Fifth, Newcastle, 41 points. Sixth, Chelsea, 40 points. Seventh, Bournemouth, 40 points. 8th, Aston Villa, 37 points. 9th, Brighton, 34 points. 10th, Fulham, 33 points. 11th, Brentford, 31 points. 12th, Manchester United, 29 points. 13th, Crystal Palace, 27 points. 14th, West Ham, 27 points. 15th, Tottenham Hotspur, 24 points. 16th, Everton, 23 points. 17th, Leicester City, 17 points. 18th, Wolverhampton, 16 points. 19th, Ipswich Town, 16 points. And in last place, 20th, Southampton, 6 points. So we'll go up to the top and we'll look over it. So Liverpool at this point should win the Premier League. I will call this now. Liverpool should win. If not, they have already won the Premier League. Barring a major catastrophe, they are the champion. Second, I think Arsenal hold. Arsenal will hold second. They are good enough to hold second. They've learned the last couple of years. They can't afford to fall off, so a comfortable hold of second for them. Now, we'll go down to the lower places of the Champions League qualification. So, at the moment, we have Forest in third. They're not going to hold that. That's going to be City. So, I'm going to put City up to fourth on my final ladder predictor. City going from fourth to third. And then I'm going to bring Chelsea into the four. That's my final ladder predictor there, Chelsea fourth. Fifth, I'm going to keep Newcastle there. And I'm going to move Forest down sixth. So, that's going to be your top six come the end of season. We'll move down to the bottom end of the table, where the relegation zone is getting a little bit closer and closer. Week by week, these teams are in more and more danger. So I think, barring any major pickup, the relegation zone, as it looks, the bottom six, consists of Spurs, Everton, Leicester, Wolves, Ipswich, and Southampton. Southampton are pretty much already in the can. They're gone. We can say goodbye to Southampton come the end of the year. Tottenham should improve their performance. I think West Ham or Palace will slide back into this bottom six in the next couple of weeks and be the team in danger there. Everton, I think, will still be in danger. I think they're not showing a good enough form to be able to continue their run. And they've been down the bottom for a while and staved off relegation after relegation for the last couple of years. I think they're going to survive another one this year. Just, again, but they will survive. Leicester, Wolves, and Ipswich. Now, this is where I say 2 of these 3 are not playing in the Premier League next year. And it's a very, very tough call to make. Which 2 do I take down with Southampton? I think Leicester's going to be safe. Leicester's my first team safe. Now it comes down to Wolves and Ipswich. That's hard. This is hard for me right now because I've seen great play from both these teams. I've seen some pretty average play from both of these teams. I am going to say that, well, they're both going down. Leicester's safe, so Wolves and Ipswich are both going down. In the order that they are? Yes. So the season should end Everton 16, Leicester 17, Wolves 18, Ipswich 19, Southampton 20. That is how I see the top 6 and the bottom 5 in the Premier League. I will keep my eye on that as we move along, but for now, we'll leave it at that and we will move on to the next piece on the agenda. It's time to look at your Premier competition, the Champions League, and this is the first year of the new league phase that concluded just last week. So, for those of you who don't know how the new league phase works, the top 8 are automatically through to the second home and away round, and then 9 through 24 play off as a first knockout round. So there's essentially 2 rounds of 16. Then we'll look at the league table and we'll go through who's in and who's out. Liverpool win the Champions League phase. Every team played 8 matches in the league phase. Liverpool 7 wins and the loss to PSV Eindhoven in their last game. Also making it through in the top 8 with the preliminary round bye are Barcelona, Arsenal, Inter Milan, Atletico Madrid, Bayer Leverkusen, Los Lille, and Aston Villa. So those 8 teams are guaranteed entry into the round of 16. We now look at teams 9 through 24. We start with Atalanta in 9. Then we have Dortmund, Real in 11, Bayern in 12, AC Milan in 13, PSV Eindhoven in 14, Paris Saint-Germain in 15, then it's Benfica and Monaco. Stade Brest is 18, Feyenoord 19, Juve is 20th, Celtic 21st. The big shock here, Man City 22nd, Sporting Lisbon 23rd, and Club Brugge 24. Now teams ranked 25 to 36 are eliminated from the Champions League. So that is Dinamo Zagreb, Stuttgart, Shakhtar Donetsk, Bologna, Red Star Belgrade, Sturm Graz, Sparta Prague, Red Bull Leipzig, Girona, Red Bull Salzburg, Slovan Bratislava, and the Young Boys. Those teams are out. Now, what's going to happen is after we see the final result from the Europa League and the Conference League, who are running a very similar format, we will then be able to see because it's a random seeding at this point for the teams ranked 9 through 24. I keep saying 16 is because it's a preliminary round of 16, but for the teams ranked 9 through 24, it's random seeding as to who you play in the preliminary knockout round. We will catch up with that in the next episode. It is now time for the big dance. The Super Bowl preview is coming up now. We have finally made it to the Super Bowl. the Chiefs versus the Eagles Part 2. Before we get into previewing the biggest of all the big games, we will look back on the conference championship games that those teams played, and we will start off with looking at the NFC championship game between the Eagles and the Washington Commanders. And final score, before we go into the game any deeper, final score, Eagles winning 55-23. Quite a strong performance there, and rightfully so. They brought in Saquon Barkley, that deserved to be in the Super Bowl. What I want to talk about is the other guy, the Washington Commanders, the team who at the start of the year brought in a coach that no one thought was a good hire. No one thought their coach was a hire that was worth any salt. They made an NFC title game with a rookie quarterback. That deserves some credit. That deserves some applause. That deserves some adulation. They lose. They lose on the second to last step. What Jaden Daniels has done down there is amazing. Nothing short of amazing. What Jaden Daniels has done for Washington is absolutely brilliant. What Jaden Daniels has done for that football team. They were a team who people thought were years away from getting anywhere near the playoff, let alone an NFC title game, and they made it there. They came up short. The Eagles outrun and outgunned them with the Saquods of Saquon Barkley. They are still a team who I think deserve all the credit in the world what they've done. The Eagles, truly deserving winners, move on to the Super Bowl and play the Chiefs. The Chiefs who beat the Buffalo Bills in the AFC title game. And the Chiefs winning this game in Chief fashion. Going down to the final play, the final minute, and winning with, the final score for the game, 32-29. The Chiefs won. Final score, a kick from Harrison Butker with 3.5 minutes to go, putting the Chiefs up, and their defense was able to slam the door shut on Josh Allen and the Bills in the closing moments. Josh Allen, who is my NFL MVP for this year. So we now move on to the biggest of the big game. Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, the Philadelphia Eagles, versus Pat Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Andy Reid, the Kansas City Chiefs. And this, if it's anything like the first one, is going to be something special. We are going to start by looking over some numbers. We're going to look at the numbers of the Eagles and the Chiefs quarterbacks. Jalen Hurts' numbers on the season. So Jalen Hurts has thrown for 2,903 yards on the season, 18 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. That's a pretty good season from Jalen Hurts, considering that he also has a lot of his legs. Watch out that Philly. His QBR, 10th overall, 65.7. His completion percentages are quite strong across the board. I mean, against Washington during the season, they were pretty weak. Although against the Eagles, he was up at 71.4%. So when he gets going, he can get going. That thing Jalen Hurts and the Eagles is if they get a chance to motor, they can motor. We go across to have a look at Pat Mahomes and the Chiefs, and we have a look at his numbers. Pat Mahomes, 3,928 yards on the year. Best for good enough for 7th best. 26 TDs, 11 interceptions on the year. He had a total QBR of 67.7, and his stats against the Bills were QBR of 87.1, a completion percentage of 69.2, and 245 passing yards. So a pretty stock standard game from Patrick Mahomes there. I don't think it's going to be won by the quarterbacks, ladies and gentlemen. I think it's going to be run by everyone else. It's going to be won by the coaches calling the right plays at the right times. It's going to be won by the brains on the sideline. It's going to be run by the bodies on the field. People in the trenches. The Lions are going to have a lot to say in this game. If the Eagles can get their running game going, that adds another facet to their play. Jalen Hurts is dangerous with his legs, and they've got Saquon Barkley. That's dangerous. Chiefs, you give that Chiefs offensive line holds up, it gives Pat Mahomes time. To give Pat Mahomes time, he makes plays. So this is a real toss-up from where I am. I've thought this would be a close game from the beginning when this game was revealed as the Super Bowl after the championship game. I am going to go with the Chiefs winning. Pat Mahomes is going to go and do it again. You can't stop the Chiefs. You can't defend the Chiefs. You can't deny the Chiefs. You just have to deal with the Chiefs. They are going to win this game. I'm going to pick the Chiefs to win this game. I'm going to say that they win the game by 10. They win Chiefs by 10. That is my final prediction. Kansas City Chiefs win by 10. I am just a humble messenger. We'll see how the game goes. And with that, I will now sign off from this episode of the International Agenda. I've been your host, Aidan Barry. This is part of the BJ Show. As always, thank you, and signing off.